Hello, everybody. How is everyone doing? My camera was a little bit crooked, so I had to like fix that. It was a little bit wonky. Thank you so much for being here, Mars. Normally it's just you and I, but we've got some friends here today.
We have exciting friends today, and we're so excited because it's a very special episode that's going to be famously queer. That's all I'm going to say. It's going to go down in queer history.
Queer
possibly.
History. Yeah.
It's going to be great.
So, Melcher, since you're right below me, go ahead and introduce yourself if you'd like to.
Sure. I'm Melchor, and yes, that's me. I'm Melcher, and I'm really happy to be here because I really love listening to Mars and Jen talk, and the few minutes we've had to just all chat right now was super fun, and I just miss people so much. I miss people so much. I never thought I would say that in my life, but yeah, I miss people so much. So it's super exciting to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. And really quickly, like you do a lot of incredible like poetry and music things. It's just absolutely incredible. Don't you have a poetry like stand-up poetry?
I host a monthly reading, and then sometimes we have featured poets from around the state and country. Sometimes we're just about to start that back up for the first time in like 15 months.
It's crazy.
So that'll be really cool. Yeah, and I mean I've been performing my whole life too. So this last year of like not performing, like I've been doing poetry and music and comedy and improv for like since I was a teenager, and I'm super old now, and so I didn't realize how much I was going to miss that stuff. So it's being in front of an audience is just, I took it for granted, and I'll never do that again.
Ooh. Well, now you've got like a virtual audience, so this is really fun.
Yeah.
And you know,
these are great.
Even though it's been like through the pandemic, like you and I got to know each other over the pandemic, and because the pandemic. So, not that I want to white line it or silver line it, but you know, there I go doing exactly that.
Yeah, I've met some really fantastic people through social media during this last year, and it's really been a saving grace, like making friends like you and the few other comic friends I have, and my other nerd hobbies. I've been able to like find people who are like into those niches, and that's been that's been a huge grace in this weird time. I've lived through some shit. I didn't think it was going to be this. Like, you know what I mean? I grew up from like the poison Tylenol bottles and shit. Like, I was a kid during the late 80s, you know? It was a weird time then. And so now it's like, I didn't think a pandemic was going to be on the list of things.
And now we're
interesting world we live in.
Climate change and speaking of insane climate, my friend Josue down here is here in Portland as well, where it's nice and sunny, 115 degrees right now. I think
very.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Happy Pride, everybody.
Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
You and I know each other because we frequent the same comic book shop.
Yes. I actually have my Pan Books of Pictures pin.
Yay! Definitely my favorite shop.
Gotta represent.
Tell everyone what you do and where they can find you at.
Hi. So yeah, I'm mostly on Twitter at Josue Reads Josue, and I do a music podcast where we kind of come together, a bunch of friends, and collaborate with bringing songs to a public playlist and like a different theme, a rotating theme every week, and that's called Jukebox Vertigo. You can find it also at Jukebox Vertigo. And then with my co-host Keith, he's also part of that show as well. But my co-host Keith, he hosts his show, We Have Issues, and it's the same thing. We just a bunch of camaraderie, and we just dish the weekly comics that are just so much. Like they run it just as long as your guys' shows, and oh boy, it's just so much to talk about.
Someone that I know recently asked me, have you read Sweet Tooth? And I'm like, dude, like, do you not watch my show? And he's like, it's like 2 hours. And I'm like, we've got a lot to talk about. We read a lot. The show's, you know how it gets. Everyone here knows that we can just end up rambling on. But I do want to thank you. And then Mars, I know you're normally here with me, but Tell us about yourself.
I am the big queer comic aunt, also known as That Comic Girl. I have my own YouTube channel at That Comic Girl where I talk about comics. I do deep dives into comics and just all types of comic book recommendations. And then, of course, every Sunday, I am here with my comic book BFF, Jen, because she completes me and lets me ramble about stupid shit.
The rambling about stupid shit is mutual. I'm so glad that we can do this every week.
That we found each other.
So let me go ahead, and there's a lot of people in the chat. First and foremost, I do want to thank Sheena for being here. Sheena we did try to get Sheena on with us, but there were some issues. So I deeply apologize that we couldn't get Sheena on. We're going to get you on.
100%.
100%. But man, let me go ahead and just make sure. And let's see here. Okay, so I'm going to say hello to some people in the chat. And so running through this, hello, Thomas Jackman. Hello to our friend Brandon, who's
We love a comic king.
Thank you so much, Brandon. Doing some really cool stuff like going through X-Men, which I love, which seems to be like everyone here loves X-Men except Mars, who hates. Like we were literally backstage and we were like, Mars
doesn't hate X-Men.
I don't hate
X-Men.
I don't hate
I hate it.
She's not prejudiced so like that.
Listen, X-Men are just really scary and overwhelming, and there's a million series.
How dare you?
I'm just afraid, okay?
That's one of the words you're not supposed to say.
I'm so glad X-Men's back is like a staple shit.
Yeah.
Like.
Absolutely. Even though right now I am pissed at Marvel for allowing something to come in, but this is a safe space right now, and we're not going to bring up that name right now. So, but yes, X-Men has been fucking killing it.
Yeah. 100%. Hello to Unruly Simeon, another one of the X-Men people in the comic book community is John. Absolutely love John. Thank you for being here. And then another one of our friends, D from FTO Nerd Talk. Do not sleep on FTO Nerd. Wonderful person. Great content that you're putting out there, friend. And then it's just me saying howdy to a whole bunch of people.
Howdy.
Sheena, if you were there, hello, we love you, and we're gonna get you on the show maybe next week. I don't know. We'll see how this happens. Hello to Julie Waltman. And hello to Chaos and Comics, who is in Las Vegas. I hope it's not as hot there as it is here.
1,000,000 degrees.
It's gonna be hot.
It gets pretty. I'm surprised it's so hot in Portland. It's how hot is it today?
115, or today was maybe getting up to 112.
Here's a quick little fact about last night. We looked it up how hot it was for the night. It was 86, but because of humidity, it was 106. It was bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it worked.
Is everyone there? Is it just me and internet land?
Okay. It's the heat. It's the humidity. We were talking shit.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I work typically 8 to 5, and every day around 4:30 my Wi-Fi goes out, and I'm like, is it because of the heat? And I'm like, I'm not just trying to ride the clock at the last half hour. I mean, maybe a little bit, but I'm just kidding. I don't know. Okay, so hello to Comic Burrito. Thank you for being here. Hello to Big Herm.
Comic burritos?
Comic burrito.
Nice.
That sounds delicious.
And let's see here. Hello to Bobby De La Ghetto. Thank you so much for being here. And then our friend Rogue Trader does some incredible.
Oh, is De La Ghetto Spanish for of the ghetto?
Of the ghetto. Hello, DJ Links. Thank you for being here. Hello to Geek Out.
Hey, Roscoe, thank you for the mustache shout out.
Ooh, yes.
I saw it in the chat.
I think that you posted the comment in the comment.
Oh yeah, I thought I'd go over there.
And I'm like,
oops.
You're welcome. No, I'm just kidding. Let's see here. I hope I'm not missing anybody. And then hello to Travis, TM Nerdy, comic book community hype man, hype person. Thank you for being here. And I think that is everybody so far. But you probably are wondering why we brought you all here today. And it's to talk about wonderful, beautiful comic books.
Yes.
I know that, at first I was like, well, let's go ahead and talk about this week's comics. Let's go ahead and talk about some queer recommendations. So Mars, do you want to go ahead and do you want to go round robin and do one at a time? Do you just
I mean, but here's the thing. Round robin is great, but I have a big stack here. So
this is part one.
Josue is gonna come at me. Okay,
this is part one.
What book do I pick? Oh, yeah. No.
All of them. We're talking about all of them.
You know what? I'm just gonna go from the bottom as a sane person does.
And the other one.
It's one of my favorite books, and I feel like not enough of people talk about it, and that makes me sad. Also, off screen, I am playing an incredibly dangerous game of Jenga right now.
Ooh, that's my life.
So
that is literally my life behind me. And really quick before you go on, I really do want to shout out Bueller underneath here. I got the incredible opportunity to record a video with him, so that'll be tomorrow. It'll be Coffee and Comics with Comics with Bueller. Absolutely fantastic job. I was so nervous, and man,
which you shouldn't be.
I know, but Bueller's such a really cool guy, and he's such a fantastic person, beloved by the community. So I really do want to say thank you for having me on your show to fill in for Bob, even though I could never fill in for Bullseye Bob, truly. So thank you so much for that, Bueller, and thank you for the coffee. He gave me some coffee from
nice.
Coffee on Comics.
Which is always exciting.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I had to interrupt there. Go ahead and let's see. Show me what you got.
So, there's a little book from Image Comics that I wish would continue, but it's on break and has been on break for a little over a year now. And no, it's not Saga. It is a little book called Isola by Brendan Fletcher and Carl Kerschel.
Cool.
So this is probably I'm full screen. This is scary.
Screen.
Hi, how are you today?
Howdy.
So Isola is one of my absolute favorite comics, I think, from Image Comics, let alone one of my favorite queer comics. It is literally a love letter to Miyazaki movies and, ironically enough, Avatar: The Last Airbender, considering that Brendan Fletcher and Carl Kerschel have never watched the show. Fun fact of the day. So Isola is a story about Rook and Queen Eowyn. I can't pronounce her name, but I can definitely spell it for you. But it is literally the classic tale of the princess or queen and her knight. So Princess Eowyn gets transformed into a tiger, and so her and Rook have to travel to the fabled land of Isola, which they don't know if it exists, in the hopes that they can break the magical spell and also avoid a civil war within the kingdom. It's really just, like I said, it's a love letter to Miyazaki movies. It has some of the most gorgeous art and coloring I have ever seen.
I'm going to full screen ya.
Okie dokie. It has some of the most gorgeous artwork and coloring I have ever seen in a comic book. And it's just one of those stories where I talk about it a lot on my channel, where it feels like a lot of queer comic books are about finding your queerness, discovering your queerness. And that's great. And I love that. But when every book is like that, it can get exhausting. This is a book where the characters are just queer. It's a natural relationship between two women and the love and the loyalty that they share for one another. And listen, if you have not read this book, please read it. It is only $9.99, so you really don't have an excuse.
And
nice.
If you end up, I'm a big fan of getting books used. If you get it used, it can be even cheaper than $9.99.
Even cheaper than $9.99.
Yeah, that's how I like it. Hello to Niall in the chat. Thank you for being here, friend. Josue.
Yes. Keeping it on.
Show me your stack. Let's go.
What you got?
Okay, I'm gonna go with a single volume right now, and it's because this book just absolutely just had my heart by the first issue, and I absolutely love it, and I hope it comes back soon.
Is it Saga?
No, I mean, yes, it has to.
Is that just gonna be the whole joke tonight? Is it Saga?
Oh God, I wish. But no, this is from Image. Getting It Together was just so wonderfully gay and super queer. And yeah, this is a creative team. Definitely look at this book.
Grace is great.
Cena Grace is awesome. Yes, absolutely. And this is just your slice of life book. Nothing like super extraordinary happens. No beams, no villains or overarching like just plot. It's just a bunch of people just getting it together in their mid-20s, and it's just so wonderful. Like the cast.
Is it true that it's the millennial version of Friends?
More like Sex in the City to me, but not in like
Okay.
I'd go with Sex in the City just because of the dialogue, where like Friends was just tame and then just kind of lame.
And just like white.
Yes,
and white.
Jen said it, not me.
Yeah.
But it's also so fucking funny. And then one of the things I love about it is that it also brought in an actual soundtrack with it. Like real music was made for the fake band. Like there's an actual band in the book, and real music was made on Bandcamp, and the band is called Nip Slip. So you can look up Nip Slip Sucks with 3 X's.bandcamp.com, and you'll find some actually great songs. By the 3rd issue, the song that was released for this particular image, for this particular song, this moment, you can play that song while you're reading it, and it absolutely destroyed me. I was in tears. I had like a 10-minute break where like I was trying to tell my partner what was happening or why I was such a mess, but I kept choking on the words just like to add context of what was going on. It was just so beautiful, like it's like what it all meant, and then just like to add another layer to this medium that I absolutely love, to another part of my life that I actually really love, which is like to bring in music. I highly recommend getting it together. It was just such a sleeper book, and yeah, just love it.
Now you make me want to pick it up, because I'll admit I read the first issue and I didn't love it.
It was very drama-ish, and that's what it was, really.
Very drama.
But just add the songs to it, because there were songs for like kind of each issue.
I got you.
Cool.
Melcher, do you have a recommendation?
Yeah.
A book that you love or don't love?
I love all these recommendations, and I'm just mentally adding to a list I need to read.
Yes.
I know. I was like trying to think of which ones I was like, okay, which ones can I do? And so I wanted to do like a couple that were like some of my earliest experiences with like queerness in comics. And so I'm going to start with Strangers in Paradise.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one.
So, yeah, like I found this, and I actually got it signed by Terry Moore.
That is dope.
I met Terry Moore in like 16 in Seattle when I went to the convention in Seattle. Super nice, dorky looking guy. With like little round glasses. He's like bald guy. But he's always had such great character work, and like also his cartooning is wonderful, like the faces and stuff. Like I grew up like on comic books and like Sunday cartoon strips. Like so I love people who can do like really expressive, funny stuff, like but keeping it, you know, like letting it go outside of like the seriousness of the medium and then bringing it back. And he's really good with that. And Strangers in Paradise was, one of the earliest experiences with queerness in a comic. And also like there was like a polyamorous relationship in it too. So that was something that I was pretty early, like that was an early example of that. And I maybe read that in the, I don't know, probably like in 9th grade. So like in the late 90s sometimes. And yeah. A gold standard. Yes. Love and Rockets is another one. Yeah. And Strangers in Paradise. Like, I love that comparison too, actually, because Love and Rockets is another great example. And so like finding that in the late 90s, you know, when I was like a freshman in high school or something, whenever I read it, I was like, oh shit, this is like such a refreshing break from all the hyper, like, there's a lot of action shit going on in the 90s, you know what I mean? Like, Image was young, there was terrible shit happening in comics. Like, there's lots and lots
Rob Liefeld was running rampant.
There we go. I didn't want to say it.
I got
Liefeld was fucking unchecked just through the whole 90s. It was a terrible time. It was a terrible time.
And I think that,
but like, especially for like diversity in comics.
Yeah, and like when I think about, obviously I wasn't hyper reading comic books at that time, so I didn't pick them up until the early 2000s, like when I was in high school. And I feel like those types of books were what got me into comic books. So I'm glad that there were books like that and not just the like dark and gritty stuff and the, I don't know.
Yeah,
People
same.
Without
Like I liked all
Organs.
that. Yeah, I liked all the superhero shit. You know, I loved X-Men in the 90s. I was super into Daredevil in the 90s. But also, like, what kept me into comics and what really sparked my love was, like, Strangers in Paradise, Sandman, and Sam Keith's The Max. Like, that's another one that's super underrated. Like, I think people sleep on Sam Keith, man. And but The Max is another great one. Those are what, like, kept me into comics, like knowing that there was shit like that possible, and that there was going to be more of it at some point. I just had to live through a bunch of bullshit. Like,
Yeah.
So I'm really refreshed at where comics are at. Like,
I agree. I do want to let everyone in the chat know that if you're liking some of these recommendations, I did actually drop a link, it's in the description, to a bookshop.org list. Bookshop.org, for those of you who don't know, who haven't heard me talk about it, is kind of like an anti-Amazon, but they're just for books. All of the profits, or a majority of the profits, actually get split up and given to local bookstores and comic book stores. So if you don't have a bookstore or LCS nearby, I understand that's the world we're living in, but you do want to pick some of these books up and you need to buy them online, please do so from bookshop.org, because money does end up going to local bookstores and comic book stores. And if you notice that I'm like here and I'm like looking down, it's because I'm literally taking these folks' recommendations and adding them to the list as we speak, if it's available.
Awesome.
So that's just me kind of on that like anti-Amazon.
Because Jen is the hero of us all.
I'm trying to be a good person. I'm not saying that, like, because I've bought stuff from Amazon. I still do from time to time. But when it comes to books,
I mean, with that bomb hack last week, that was awesome. I needed that.
With what?
The Powell's bomb hack that we all needed.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I guess it's my turn, and I was like,
yes.
My list is literally just like sitting here beside me. But one of the books that I do want to recommend, and it's right here. I actually did a book club with friends from Comic Shop News, so Dan Gambit and Scott, who's a local artist here in Portland, and we talked about Genderqueer by Maya Kobabe. Wonderful, wonderful story about Maya growing up, learning, being assigned female at birth, but then with this discussion of gender and who they are, and who they are, they use Spivak pronouns, and it was delightfully educational, and it was a beautiful, heartwarming story. I've always been a fan of like memoir type books, and this one was exceptional. Has anyone else gotten a chance to read this one?
I haven't.
I have not. It's on the list.
I'm writing my list down too. Since we're all doing it.
Yeah, that one's been on my list, and I just need to order it. Yeah, I've been waiting to make an order online. Anyway.
Ooh, a hobo magician. I lovely.
It was really good, and even for someone like me, who I'm going to be this big, loud social justice warrior. Like even me, like I got schooled in a lot of things in this, so it was wonderful. And then Greg E is saying Genderqueer is wonderful, and then halfway through Genderqueer, we were just talking about that today. Hobo magician. And then hello to Comic Book Toby. I don't think I said hello to you. And then I don't think that I said hello to Gore. But thank you for being here, because you always bring like
conversation to the table.
I don't know how, like literally, like between how much time you must spend typing in like comic book community chats and just delivering the information, and then being in
Stray
chats.
Bullets.
Stray Bullets is good.
Ooh,
yeah, that's another like 90s one that I forget about a lot.
Yeah. Beautiful. Okay, Mars, are you ready to go up next?
Am I? So, oh my God. Okay, so I don't want to be that person where I'm like,
yes,
when I was curating, I mean, sure. But when I was curating my list, I'm like, I really want to talk about and showcase comics that I feel like people don't talk about. Not to like be the comic book hipster, but it's like, I feel like when you go online and you look at the queer comic recommendations, I feel like for the most part, you get the same books over and over again. And rightfully so, because they're some of the best books out there, but then you find some that are overlooked, including... And I've been wanting to talk about this lady forever. And I just never have on my channel, on here, period. It's time to finally talk about my absolute all-time favorite character in comic books. And that is a little lady by the name of Painkiller Jane, aka Jane Vasco, aka Queen of My Heart. Listen, I will be the first to tell you that Painkiller Jane is not a story for everybody. It is definitely your standard pulpy 90s heroine / mid 2000s heroine. But Painkiller Jane was my first experience, I think, in like media, like in comics, of a bisexual woman, and represented more than just the male gaze. We do see her in relationships with men. We see her in relationships with women. For those of you that might be unsure, like I said, Painkiller Jane is like your standard 90s action heroine. She was a cop who got caught in a very bad drug bust. She was pumped full of drugs as a result, and the mixture of those drugs gave her not superhuman powers, but super healing powers. So think Wolverine and his adamantium healing. Is that correct for the X-Men stands on my panel and in the chat?
Yes.
I did it.
Yay.
I'm proud of myself.
Proud of you.
So she's got like super fast healing, which means that she can't die, she can't get hurt. So it not only is her, you know, being an actual heroine, but dealing with her own demons, you know, having those bad thoughts and realizing that she can't do anything about them because of her condition. I just love this lady so much. I've never ever heard anybody in my comic circle know about her, talk about her, period. I just love Painkiller Jane. Do not watch the really bad sci-fi TV show, because it is not Painkiller Jane. I don't know what to tell you all. I'm sorry, but
who put this book out? What publisher?
Was it like Tidal or
I don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
It was originally Icon in the 90s, and then it was picked up by a little Comicsgate supporting group called Dynamite Comics. It was over at, there was another comic publisher that had it for a while, and now Jimmy Palmiotti does a lot of self-publishing. So most of the books are now on Kickstarter and done through small indie presses. So it's keeping the spirit of my girl alive. I love Painkiller.
There was a Hellboy Painkiller Jane comic.
There was. So in the 90s, we got all sorts of crossovers. We got Hellboy and Painkiller Jane. We got The Darkness and Painkiller Jane. The Punisher and Painkiller Jane, which is absolutely hilarious. It was great.
Oh, sorry. Let me go ahead and I'm gonna.
It was great. Yeah, Painkiller Jane and Hellboy. Like, it's just, I miss the night. Well, I don't miss the 90s because I wasn't reading comics in the 90s. But
I was saying that's a hot take right there that you missed the 90s.
I don't. Okay,
hear me out. I miss the Spice Girls. I miss NSYNC. I miss the boy bands, and I miss the really insane crossovers that we could get away with. That's about it.
Does anybody remember the Amalgam universe that happened?
Exactly.
In the 90s?
I mean, for
what
a second.
What the fuck was that? What the fuck?
What was that?
Hey, Johnny Case might bring it back in crossover. They actually said the word amalgam in the book.
This is true.
I'm waiting.
He did,
another conspiracy.
He did.
I'm waiting
that
for
book is
all
tight.
of the crossovers,
Hell yeah.
man. Josue, what else do you have?
My turn. Cool.
Yeah. From
they've got to grab from the fat stack.
Keeping it at Image. So I just expressed my love for getting it together. Slice of life, all the drama, no powers. But what if we added, hey Keith! That's my buddy Keith, that's my co-host with Listen to We Have Issues, as well as Casually Comics. But what if we did sprinkle some godlike powers into all the drama? You get the wicked and the divine.
You went and dragged out the entire Wicked and Divine collection.
Oh, I went to go fish out so many things out last night just to prepare for this. This series fucking rules. It's so goddamn good. Literally goddamn good, pun intended. And all the queerness, it's just like, I mean, like all the drama aside, it really is about like self-discovery and like bullshit powers aside, it really is about self-discovery. And then like, I mean, as toxic as it was, those are relationships that still happen, like the whole Persephone and was it who was she? I always called her Rihanna, Sockman, the cat. Damn, that was some bad times.
But what's great about Wictive is the amount of representation.
Absolutely.
I feel like a lot of books were like, this is a great, queer representation. This is great lesbian representation, bisexual. Wictive had it all. We had trans representation, non-binary.
Oh man, the
gay,
Moors,
lesbian, bisexual.
They were all there, yes. And it's like, you can't call on bullshit. You just like and at that point, putting my like slice of life stuff aside and like self-discovering aside, and now talking about the book, it's like you start thinking about past deities, and it's like, why wouldn't they be also just like in play like this as well in their own way? Why were they all just like super cis and just like the bulkiest of cis dudes? Like, no. Gods were very much like this. They've had to have been, or else it wouldn't make sense for the rest of us. And it's supposed to be a reflection of whatever the fuck. So I'm a nihilist. That's why I'm kind of like, that's why I sound like that in the end source. But regardless, I believe so much in Wictive. And yeah, I love this book
and
so
Wictive
much.
is just it's gods and goddesses fighting amongst each other, loving amongst each other, and it's just, and we can agree. I mean, maybe agree to disagree, but while I love Wictive, and it's probably one of the most beautiful books I've ever read, and some of the most amazing characters, I still don't understand anything that happened in Wictive, but I had fun while it happened.
I mean, in the end, it really was about like, I guess the point of the gods, if we're just gonna get that, my last little 2 cents there, I guess that their point, like their words, were to just capture the zeitgeist of that last century to push on the next influence, because that's what they were here for. And this point, they were just here to influence the next batch of media. And this, I guess, it's weird how it all jumped around and how it all made sense, but in the end, you just have to take in for your love of characters. Also, Prince was one of the characters, and that was the best.
Prince is one of the characters.
That's awesome. And you mentioned about this, like the mythology of gods and how we've seen them through different cultures. And I feel like people are all of a sudden awakening to Norse mythology, thinking about the Loki TV show, and
my God.
Oh, Loki can't be bisexual. And it's like, my people, have you not, like, do you know where Loki comes from within Norse mythology? Like,
my people, did you know Loki fucked a horse?
Yeah,
right. They can accept that story, but a man is like, no. Yeah. It's like, get the fuck out of here. He's a god of tricksters, of tricks. The man is a literal trick. He can do it whoever he wants.
That's so funny. Melcher, what you got for us? Sorry.
No.
That's a beautiful recommendation. Definitely my favorite book of the night.
10 out of 10.
It's great. It's very affecting.
Who put that out, by the way?
I think a lot of people just grow it themselves. I forgot what I was saying. Oh, Wicked and Divine is great. I fucking love that book. That's like one of the tightest books. Like, I love fucking Wicked and Divine. I actually love Kieran Gillen. He's super cool. But Jen had the memoir too, and so I also had a memoir by Alison Bechdel. It's called Fun Home.
Cool.
Which is like the essential queer read.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just like also pretty sad and real. Like some shit. Her dad, it's about her father who was like a closeted gay man, and her kind of coming to terms with her own queerness, but also like themes of like mental illness and suicide. Trigger warning for anybody that is going to read that. But it's just like a super real book, and I remember seeing interviews back in like the years after it, and Alison Bechdel just seems super cool. So it always made me like the book more. So just think that the cartoonist was just like a cool person. So, and then I love that they hella randomly reference that in Rick and Morty. Like
what?
In season 4, I think, or something. He's like, you got to tell a story, Morty, like about 2 women. Like, you can't have a man. And he's like, the Bechdel test. And he's like, what do they teach you in school? He's like, well, they don't have an interaction with a man. Morty, what do they teach you in school? The Bechdel test, named for famous cartoonist Alison Bechdel. So.
Yep.
But yeah, it's a very real and just revealing memoir, and I really love comics memoirs because I feel like people are more revealing than they are in just like prose memoir somehow. I don't know, maybe because they can illustrate it, it can convey so much more like contextual emotion. Like it's just more textured. And I guess that just goes for comics in general. Like it's generally a more textured kind of experience. And so comics memoirs are really intense for me to read, and I love it. Like I remember discovering Alison Bechdel and like a few other like memoir cartoonists like David Small, who did a really cool book called Stitches, and Craig Thompson, who did Blankets. Like that kind of like cartoon memoir stuff is really affecting it, I think, in Fun Home. And it's about, they grew up in a funeral home, so it's just kind of an interesting setting for like all of this to even be happening. Like that her family ran a funeral home, that her family ran a funeral home or whatever. It's just a kind of weird addition to it.
Yeah.
But yes,
I feel like
my second.
If you like Fun Home, I think that you will really, really like Genderqueer. I was just talking about this one last night, so it was it's fresh in my mind. But the way that Alison Bechdel talks about her love of her father, or at least this like memories that she has of her father, because her love for him is very conflicted. And so anyways, but she talks about all the books that he got her to read. And in Genderqueer, Maya Kobe does the same thing, where A talks about all of the books that A grew up with. And there's some of the same books like that I grew up with as well, like Alana, Song of the Lioness books. Man, so same thing with Alison Bechdel's Fun Home. She talks about all of these books that she grew up loving because of her father. So I really think that if you liked Fun Home, you'll really like Genderqueer as well.
Yeah, and I think even on a broader sense, if you have a complicated relationship with a parent kind of deal, like I have a similar thing with my dad. I'm estranged from my dad for many years, but he instilled in me like a love of music. He was a musician, like he was a jazz trumpet player, and so like I have all this love of music through him, but I don't have any sort of love for him in any sense. So it's this weird, like I always think of him when I think of music, but not in that way. Like so I related to it in that kind of like complex relationship with a parent too. And it was just in 2006 that was like again, like for contextually, like not much was. It's weird to think how little representation there was just like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And how much it has truly like ramped up. So
yes, and it's ramped up, and people are still complaining about it. That the fact that it is, when like you're right, 15 years ago you had to like barely pick out of the litter of like where you were at, where you could barely be seen or felt seen, and now yes, there's an abundance. Thank God. Thank fucking Nihilism Christ that we have someone like Volt. Someone like Volt to just kind of put it out there for us, and we will get to some Volt.
And like Hollow Heart has been great.
Yes, and so for my next pick that I'm going to go ahead and pull out, it's not Vault, but it is Terminal Punks by Mad Cave Studios. Was that on your list?
It is. I mean, I'm glad to share.
Okay. No, we can't. I'm just kidding. Of course we can't.
It's the book made for Jen and Josue.
It really is. And Melcher, I literally have, so Mars, I have a box for you. Melcher, I have a box for you, and it includes a couple of single issues of this. And
that's awesome.
If you haven't already read it, but it's absolutely incredible. Okay, it's so good. I know I've talked about it a lot on the channel, but it's basically about this group of young adults who they're in a band and they win Battle of the Band, so they have to go to New York, and they get caught in an airport where there are escaped animals that were part of animal abuse, animal testing for vape of all things. So it's not really even about that, but it's about the personal relationship between the bandmates. And in similar to the way that you talked about getting it together, there's like a little playlist of like really great songs, and even each, I don't know if it'll show it in the back here.
They're in the front.
Josue's beat you to it.
Yep. So let me see here. There were some incredible covers. And I don't, so like Tragic Kingdom. And then my favorite, I think, is going to be, was it?
The second
there
one.
was a No Doubt cover.
There was
a
No Doubt
cover.
My favorite,
sick.
Well, my favorite cover is this one, and I feel like you'll probably appreciate this one, but it's an X-ray spec.
Dude, fuck yeah, right?
Yeah. So very fantastically like genderqueer, sexually queer group of characters. So I'd highly recommend this. And Mad Cave has just been publishing some really good
showing
books.
all of them. They did Bad Brains too.
Yep.
I mean, Talking Heads in the front. It's like it's just a very punk, super queer book, and a super high recommendation too.
Yep, for sure. And one that came out recent, because I feel like a lot of the ones that we're talking about like is a really cool blend of like books that came out within the last 20 years, books that came out recently, and I feel like this one is for all those like punk millennials and maybe Gen Zs.
It doesn't take itself seriously, and it's so fun.
Like at all. And I do, like I said, so bookshop.org, I did go ahead and post the link here. So as we've been going along, I've been trying to add them. Some are available on bookshop.org, some are not. So I'll try to, at the end, kind of go through and clean it. But I've been trying to add as I go along. So if any of these books interest you, please check out that link down below. So, Jay, I was kind of thinking about V for Vendetta since it does feature a queer character. And I remember reading V for Vendetta in high school. And man, that storyline like makes me cry every time.
It's probably one of the only good parts of it. Like it's honestly, hot take. You guys love choosing violence. This is my hot take. There's one of those cases where like the movie was better than the book.
100%. Thank you, Josue.
The way the main character was written, Natalie Portman's character, Evie, the way she's written in the book is just so bad.
It's bad.
Like
it's
Alan
bad.
Moore just doesn't know how to write women, and then we can just feel it in that book. And thank God for the Wachowski sisters to actually like kind of redeem like the whole storyline and kind of like set it straight, or more like you can follow it better in the movie than it is in the book.
Yeah,
it's so good.
For sure. Mars, what's your next rec?
This is a very hard episode for me because I get very excited over books easily.
Yes.
And I get extremely
excited. I've never done that on our
I've never gotten excited about a book ever in my life. So I guess I'm just going to have to talk in a monotone voice from here on out. JK fuckers, we're talking about Crowded.
Oh,
okay.
Nice.
I knew it.
I'm mad that Jen just knows. Jen just knows.
I knew.
It's great. So Crowded is a little book from Image Comics that's super fucking gay. How gay is it, you might ask? Well, hear me out. How gay is it? Well, hear me out. So it's a little story about this girl, named Charlie. I'm bad with names. This is Charlie, and this is Charlie's girlfriend. Hold on, back me up. Hold on. Vita. Thank you. Why do I always forget that? I always think of Vita Ayala. So this is Charlie and Charlie's eventual girlfriend, Vita. And in the world of Crowded, you can crowdfund assassinations. How fun is that, everybody? So Charlie is a little bit of an asshole, just like me. And Charlie gets the world's biggest crowdfund on her. And so she enlists Vita to protect her. And it is just a wacky, wild road trip of them trying to escape assassins. There's a little dog named Dog, who is the best character to ever exist. And we love Dog. And it's basically that slow burn pining. But then you finally get it. And it's really hot. And I'm really gay for both of these characters. But I also am both of these characters. So I love Crowded. It is just super fun. It's your average Chris Sabella book where it is just a wacky, wild, fun time. And it is very fucking millennial. So I feel like not everybody will enjoy this book because I feel like it is targeted towards that generation. But it's just so fun and so wholesome. And it's one of those easy reads that like everybody should read. And the first volume is only $12.99. So not quite an Image first, but it's only $12.99. The only sad thing about It is a great book. The only sad thing about Crowded is, unfortunately, it did not do well in single issue form. So the third trade is going to trade paperback only, which, in my opinion, I kind of enjoy better. So volume 3 is on the way, so you have time to catch up. But listen, I just want everybody to read these books because they're just a lot of fun. That's all. It's just a grand time. There you go.
Turn. Once again, I just keep adding these. If they are available on bookshop.org, they are being added to that list. So please check it out, folks. And really quick, I do just want to go ahead and say, sorry to interrupt the flow a little bit, but I did also want to go ahead and mention, I did put links in the description below to 2 favorite charities of mine. One is the Marsha P. Johnson Institute. The other one is the Trevor Project. So links to those are in the description. If what we're talking about, like I know we're talking about comic books and we're talking about fun stories, and it's absolutely incredible that we're getting here to like be able to have this conversation. But we wouldn't be here today without people like Marsha P. Johnson. So I do just want to go ahead and say, if anyone feels like you want to like donate, if any of you just want to check it out, both of them have ways that you can help without monetary value, as well as just signing up for like a list to get notifications and stuff. Please feel free to go ahead and do so, especially like I said, because the people like Marsha P. Johnson, the reason why we're here during Pride Month, Pride was a riot. So, you know, go like throw a brick or something.
Exactly.
Like throw a brick.
You know, start a riot and just fight. You know, some people still have to fight to be who they are. So I do just want to go ahead and shout out. That's kind of like the guiding North Star with this. But sorry for all that heavy ass shit. Josue, I would love to hear your next recommendation.
Oh no, it's totally appropriate. It's only appropriate to actually shout it out. It should be every other book, if anything. Right? Piggybacking off of Mars,
what you got?
Images OG ends. Quick shout out. I didn't fish him out because I should have. November by Matt Fraction and Elsa Charretier. Great book, has like 2 gay characters in it. Great stuff. But the one I did want to shout out right now, I guess like these are 2 really quick ones, or one really quick one. One I'm not going to spoil too much because it just came up on this show last week. And again, Mars, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but I have to talk about Odyssey.
I read it. I read the book. Thank you.
No shit. Excellent.
I read it. I read the first volume. I have to get volume 2.
And what'd you think?
It's hella gay.
Yes.
It's hella gay for me, fam. It's hella gay.
A lot of.
It's hella gay.
I had to shout this one out because it's what a great book. Just like what a great idea. But the one for my turn I did want to shout out to fucking Paper Girls.
Yep.
Actual number 1 to show off because I have to show a little show and tell. Yes. Oh. What you got? You too?
Show me what you got.
You got it graded? Holy shit. Wow. Okay, well, I'm putting mine down. Just put up yours. Mine's in shame. Wow.
Oh, yep.
That's
Holy
awesome.
shit. Yes.
That's beautiful.
Paper Girls. Like, what's there to say about it? It's such a great book. I absolutely love how it just focused on. There was a volume for each girl. Like we started in the beginning with all 4 of them. Then crazy shit ensues, and then each volume kind of focused on like them kind of getting their shit together too. And then we all come back at the end, and it's just like, oh god, this time travel mess. And I know we're just like shitting on Brian K. Vaughan for just not giving us Saga, but at the very least, thank you for Paper Girls. This honestly was one of those treats. I was just like, I wish it could go on forever, but it was perfectly told the way it was.
Mm-hmm.
I just hella enjoyed this book.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a good one, and it's coming to Amazon Prime.
Yes.
At some point? Question mark.
And I forget where Why the Last Man is coming. Maybe
that is going to FX.
Yes.
FX. Okay.
At least there's been some clips of that from like little reveals and stuff.
Yeah. Wonderful. Melcher, what do you got next?
Well, I had Paper Girls and November on my list too.
Oh, my bad, dude. I'm really just two of them.
No, they're great books. They're fucking great books. But I did have one that I've been reading currently that I've really liked is Alice in Leatherland. It's a very delightful book.
That book makes me feel things. That's all I'm gonna say.
I love using the word delightful because it's so packed full of just all kinds of shit that most people are probably not accustomed to having in a book.
Yes.
But it's delightful. And I love the character so far, and especially I'll try not to give too much away, but Alice moves in with these two new people, and those two people are just fantastic.
Oh, hella, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Alice in Wonderland is a comic that we quite love on this show, and we discuss just about every month.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm glad to hear that you're reading it because it's one of my faves.
I saw the solicit for the first issue, and I was like, "Oh, this sounds just up my alley."
I love the color.
Yeah,
like the palette throughout the book, it's so nice. I love that it's like there's like the cliche like bisexual colors, but in this one it's so appropriately like just the tone is just appropriately like so queer about the whole thing.
My cliche bisexual color.
There it is.
It's fine.
No, but it's like, you know, like the lighting aspect, like the meme and everything. But in this book, it's just like there's like a queer tone throughout this like palette that's like there, and it never changes. It's really cool. It's a book that's like, I do love it. You're right. It is delightful. And it's just because of the drama it is. Like I just had issues with the last issue. And it's just Alice herself, and just like I wish it was just like sometimes we're just or just maybe not go to her escapism and write a lie about her experiences.
Yeah, I was laughing at that part too, because I was like, oh, she kind of twisted it up. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But no, it's been a delightful book, and just like for the level of level of queerness, it's great. Like it's just all in there. They're just throwing it all in there. And I love it. And thank goodness, like you were all saying earlier, like for publishers like Vault and Black Mask that are doing this shit, because fuck what Marvel and DC are doing or whatever.
Yeah.
Great stuff, like whatever. An honorable mention I have is like The Dreaming, Waking Hours, which Ruin is a wonderful character. I feel so bad for his dumbass.
He's a wonderful character. I feel bad for his dumbass.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's one of those characters. But like, you know, fuck whatever Marvel and DC are doing. Like, I think the smaller publishers are really letting some stories get told. Yeah. And it's fucking great. Yeah. So like Alice in Leatherland was like, I saw the solicit and I was like, oh, I have to read this. This just sounds like something that I'm gonna have to see, especially when it's like a comedy of errors sort of story. I'm like, that's my life is a comedy of errors. So like I have a sweet spot.
Are all
right? Yeah, whether we recognize it or not. I think like I have a soft spot for comedy stories that are like that follow that kind of stumbling through actualization kind of shit. Like that's the absurdist in me, I guess.
That's beautiful. So for my next one, where is it?
I was gonna stash of queer comics.
You know,
Jen should just go like this and be like, oh, this one. Just blindly fish it.
Well, I can't find it, but I will go ahead and do this one because it's by the same author.
Nice.
Girl from the Sea. I was actually gonna shout out The Witch Boy, and I feel like they should be like hand in hand. Because they're both done by Molly Knox Ostertag, and this one is a fantastic story about a young lesbian woman finding herself and basically not only being true to herself but being true to her friends. And there were some really heartfelt moments that I felt in this because the main character, and her name is escaping me, but the main character is basically saying like, well, when I move away from here, when I grow up just a little bit more, I can start all over and I can be gay somewhere else. I can't be gay here. So I just thought that this one was a beautiful story about finding yourself. The Witch Boy is also very similar, and I feel like it is the anti J.K. Rowling. It's about a young boy who grows up in a family of witches and shapeshifters. All the women are witches, all the men are shapeshifters. He's a young boy who wants to be a witch and learn those. He didn't really find his shapeshifter powers, so just trying to be a witch and kind of learns it in secret. Beautiful, beautiful stories, and just imagine me holding the Witch Boy right here and holding Girl from the Sea right here. They're both beautiful. Hey.
What a lovely double feature.
Double feature. Fake double feature. Mars, what is your next pick?
So we've been talking about a lot about Western comics and traditional comics, and I feel like we don't give manga enough credit, especially when we come to queer reads, because when we think of queer manga, it's a lot of your stereotypical, the yaoi and the yuri and fan servicey stuff. And not to say that stuff is bad, but in recent years, I've come to find a couple of books that I really connect with the way that I tend to connect with Western queer stories.
Mm-hmm.
And My Brother's Husband is one of those. So My Brother's Husband is a slice of life story that tells the story of a young man, a single man, and his young daughter. And his estranged brother has passed away, sadly. So his brother's husband, who is from Canada, where I guess queerness is more acceptable in Canada versus, say, in Japan, he comes to Japan to pay respects not only to the family, but to his late husband's just culture and pride. And it's him kind of getting to know, his husband's brother and getting to know his family and his young child. And it's just the big question of sexuality acceptance in other cultures. And it made me, as somebody who lives in the States and where queerness isn't always accepted, it's definitely more accepted than it is over in, say, another country like Japan. We have his young daughter who sees a gay man and is just immediately like, well, does that mean that I can marry a woman if I want to? And it poses that question. And while it does kind of hit a tender subject, at the end of the day, this is probably one of the most wholesome books that I have ever read in my entire life. It's really great. It's really wholesome. It has a live action adaptation, which is absolutely amazing. And just one of those rare gems that we just don't talk about enough, I feel like.
Absolutely. I'd be remiss if I didn't shout out Leron from Gurren Lagann, who was like, they didn't outright say, especially because like at the time, like the writing just probably wasn't there, but he's absolutely just like a non-binary character, and they don't write them as like just a jokey character, like the butt of every joke, even though because like the whole show is just riddled with drilling innuendos. But they write them as like just like the actual smart person, like the technical person that's like kind of running the ship, and just like this is like a manga character I've always loved. Leron from Gurren Lagann, super cool.
I missed all of that. Can you repeat it?
So totally real quick, I was gonna say My Brother's Husband, super queer, super wholesome. Please read it. There you go.
Thank you. I love that elevator pitch. Just read it.
Just read it. That's how all my pitches go.
My turn.
Of course.
Please.
Cool. Last image shout outs. God, do I love these books. Sunstone.
I knew it. Yeah.
Sunstones. I did the worst thing ever, and I binged these two books in like almost like a sitting of a week, and now no other book holds up to this caliber, and I hate myself for it. I should have just like spaced this. I wasn't sure if this was gonna be like the best thing ever, and oh my god, do I just love this book, this series, this everything about it. Like, talk about open representation. Like, holy shit, this book is just very, very open. If it's like it's very niche, if it's the kind of stuff you're into. But then the niche. Beautiful
explain for anyone who maybe is not familiar with Sunstone what you mean by niche, because I would not describe it as that.
That
is a collar, and that is some bondage.
Jen, it's wholesome BDSM, okay?
It is, and I'm all for BDSM, whether it's as long as it's consensual, whether it's really wholesome
or otherwise.
Otherwise, I'm a particular fan of the otherwise, but that's a whole nother story here. So it is a beautiful story about like a lesbian couple, but
they basically discover that they're gay. So like they basically just wanted, it was a booty call. And it was like, well, then no one else than this person who I trust with, because it is very important. That part is very important for this part of play. And then it really didn't come up until like afterwards, like, oh shit, I guess we kind of are in an. It's just like, and that's the beautiful part about the book, all the drama. It's just like, it's like these two girls that just fell in love with each other, but they don't want to admit it. They didn't want to admit to each other because it's like it's just giving up the power play move, and that's how they always like come to their own like internal monologue about it. And it's like, if you two would just talk to each other like you talk about everything else in this book, you'd be so happy. But damn it, everything that ensues in this book is just so, I mean, I do not want to say awesome, because there's a very heavy section about mistakes that happen. But damn it, it's so written in such a real way, and where you think you're gonna get like the ultimate smut book, and it's like,
and you do,
but it never becomes like the hentai book. It really just cuts off where it has to, just because
there are certainly some spicy panels, absolutely.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
And Stepan Sajic, that tends to be a topic that he knows very, very well, which is surprising, especially coming from a straight man. You don't expect a book about lesbian BDSM to run well from a straight man. Like, you're just like, okay, you shouldn't be touching this. Please don't. It's going to be cringy as fuck. But I don't want to say he did his research, because that sounds gross and slimy, but you can tell that he definitely, and he talks about this a lot. I feel like in some of his author notes, he talked to friends, he talked to people that he knows in the community, so that way he could get that representation.
I feel like he's just another person that's like in the club too.
Oh, so he's definitely in the club 100%, whether he says or not. I've got that vibe. What I love about Sunstone too is Sunstone, for those of you that are interested, Sunstone is available to read completely for free right now on Stepan Sajic's website. So if you go to Stepan Sajic's Twitter, he's got links posted, because a lot of his other series, they started off as web comics that just happened to get printed. And speaking of other really great sexual representation books by Stepan Sajic, Fine Print, which right now is Patreon exclusive over on his Patreon or whatever, is another book that's coming out in October that has to deal with succubus. And what's the male version of a succubus? I ask this every time. Incubi. Incubus. Thank you. But it has to deal with a lot of like shape shifting and gender fluidity, and just great, nice, fun times. It's all I'm going to say. Wholesome.
It really is wholesome.
Wholesome fun times.
I cried like a baby throughout the series, and it's like, again, I should not have binged it, because nothing. That's why I'm having a hard time like really falling in love with Alice in Wonderland, because like I binged Sunstone, and now I'm reading Alice in Wonderland. I'm like, Alice, just do it. Be okay. Okay, pass. That was my book.
Pass.
Everybody read Sunstone.
One thing that I loved about Sunstone, and maybe this was just my expectation, I avoided it for a very long time, because I honestly thought that it was just going to be some straight dude's lesbian scissor fantasy. Like, I thought that it was just going to be like two lesbians, whatever a straight white man thinks to be. Well, not white, but
I think that was my hesitation with it too, but it's good to know it's not that.
Yes, it is so good. Melcher, do you have another book for us?
Yeah, I was just actually so like, I wish I had everything in trade, but I don't, and I was like trying to dig through my fucking boxes right now.
You can like
I have
pretend.
Like 40. I have it on my phone. I have like 40 something fucking long boxes in my bedroom. My bedroom is literally, it's almost like kind of pathetic. Like, my bedroom is just my bed.
Is your mattress on top of all your long boxes?
No, my mattress is on the ground. So I have a bed that is on the ground, and then 40 some odd long boxes that are just that round the rest of the room. That's my whole bed.
That's your frame. Cool. That's your kingdom.
All my other shit's out in the living room, but like my bedroom where I sleep is like, that's it, just long boxes and a bed. But this one, I was reminded of when I read November. I really like November, and in particular because Elsa Chartier's art is fucking
beautiful,
super fucking cool. And
even following your YouTube. Oh, sorry.
No,
I YouTube channel. It's really cool.
No, I should. Oh fuck! I didn't even know about it. Okay, I'm gonna mark that down. That's my phone. Oh, my phone's so my first experience with Elsa Chartier was this book called. Oh man, is it gonna even fucking focus? Called The Infinite Loop.
Ooh,
that's a good one.
And that was like, I think it was in 2015. And and it was just her art is stupendous, but also the love story that takes place in it is kind of adorable, and it's like a time hopping shit and I'm always a sucker for like time hopping shit. So like you throw some time travel. I'm like a fucking hokey nerd. Like I just like you throw in some time travel or some future dystopia shit, and I'm like, oh cool.
How are you doing with Time Before Time right now? Just really quick, I just need to know.
I actually haven't got a chance to read it because I was gonna pick up the first issue, and then I kind of like flipped through it, and I was like, I'll wait for the trade.
Okay.
And I don't usually do that. I actually tend to buy shit more in singles, but like that one I wasn't sure because the art wasn't really catching me. And so, but I don't know. Is it some? Maybe I need an opinion. Should I get on it?
I mean, the first issue does drop like a really cool time travel bomb that I won't spoil like another movie. But if you like the genre, that's why I was curious to pick your brain at it because only 2 issues in, and I still don't know what to think of it either. Yeah,
it's one of those. See, I don't necessarily mind that kind of feeling either with comics. Like when I'm a couple issues in and I still don't know how to feel. Like talking weird comics. Talking weird, like Peter Milligan. I don't even know if I like everything Peter Milligan writes, but I read everything Peter Milligan writes.
Cool.
Like, I've read like everything he's done since I was fucking like 13 years old, and like I don't even know if I like it all. Like I can't really say like, do I even like it all? But I read all of it because it's fucking weird, and like so like you find me, and so the time travel thing in Infinite Loop kind of got me right away, and this Elsa Chartier's art can carry fucking anything. Yes, her art is so good. It's like because it's got this kind of like feel of like vintage cartooning.
It almost feels like Darwin Cook.
Oh.
Yes, also another person I like for that reason too, because he has that like vintage cartooning kind of feel. I love that shit.
Like the way they
can contemporize.
Yeah, the way they kind of mesh like negative space, or like using like a black to like not really use someone's outline. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, and the angularness too. Like Elsa Chartier stuff is like pretty angular. I'm a big fucking Mignola fan, so like I love angular shit. Like so, like I like Infinite Loop a lot, and I like November because I mean I like Matt Fraction too, but I think I got it on the strength of like, oh, I'm gonna love how it looks because it's a big hardcover.
They're really nice, right? All collected.
Yeah, they really are nice, and I was able to get all 4 of them for like $38 on eBay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, from a shop. Yeah, from a shop that had like a store on eBay, and they had them as a bundle for $38.
That's incredible.
Apparently wasn't selling well. Selling well, I guess, wherever they were in Texas or something.
Of course. Definitely check out her YouTube channel because she goes into how she does a page, how she goes about formulating drawing a page. So you definitely get a kick of that.
Tight. Hell yeah. Thank you for telling me that. I still say tight. Does everybody say tight here?
I say tight sometimes.
Tight. Tight. All right. Yeah, that's me. That's Jen.
Jen, what's your next random comic pick?
You know, I'm letting the books decide for themselves. And, you know, I am going to go ahead and go with this one. Let me see if I can grab it. It's Spellbound. I'm probably going to butcher the author's name. Bishak Sim is a trans author. And this is a really another delightful story about a lot of this is kind of like part personal memoir, part, I think, mentioning like this person is not who I was back then, but they're a stand-in for me. Like it's the character maybe that she wanted to be. So I thought that was really interesting. I don't think that I would have picked this up if it wasn't for Books with Pictures. I can't recall if it was Nick or Katie at Books with Pictures who mentioned it, but
always with the recommendations.
Always with just the absolute most fantastic recommendations. Once again, I think that if you like the books like Genderqueer and Fun Home, these personal memoirs I feel like are always just absolutely beautiful, very engaging, and just gives it a unique perspective of something that I never would have learned. She's also, I want to make sure that I get this right. I know that she's Indian, but grew up in New York City, but parents from India. So there's definitely a lot of like culture in there that I thought was really interesting. I haven't really heard like maybe a trans perspective from there. So that was beautiful.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Once again, I'm going to go ahead and take this really brief moment to say the reason why I really wanted to be here and talk about all of these things is I did want to promote some charities. So in the link below, there are links to the Marsha P. Johnson Institute and the Trevor Project. Both are beneath there. And once again, if any of the books sound good to you, there is also a link to the bookshop.org list of books. And they're kind of like an anti-Amazon where money, proceeds, whatever, profits, instead of going to a big corporation so someone can buy another house, it actually goes to local and independent bookstores. So that's my spiel.
He's buying more than houses.
Yeah, that is also true.
He's buying like entire countries at this point. I think.
Yeah.
He's gonna buy the whole world from everyone. He's gonna give us all like $1 billion each, and he's gonna be like, I own the world now. And we're all gonna be like, fuck.
So, do what you can to stop that, even if it can't really be stopped. So buy books from books instead.
I say we keep motioning the movement to not let him come back into orbit.
Yeah. If I could just just let him go.
There's a petition.
Slingshot his ass like how they do, like around the moon and then off. Fuck it.
Really quick, Chris from Chaos and Comics says the way that Melcher describes Milligan, I feel about Zach Thompson, and Zach Thompson is another writer that I really love, who did Lonely Receiver, I Breathed a Body. Oh.
And that's awesome comparison, Chaos, because I actually thought the same thing. I was like, oh, Zach Thompson's a fucking Milligan fan. Mm-hmm. I was like, Zach Thompson, he's obviously like a Milligan fan. I just see there's a lot of parallels. Like, so I feel the same way. I felt the same way with Lonely Receiver. I kind of was like, did I like that? And then I was like, I don't know. I read it. Like I didn't.
I read it. Can I
didn't dislike it. I didn't dislike it.
I'm gonna start using that. I like that.
And that was on my list too. That one was on my list too. It was like a weird queer monogamy horror kind of shit. That was kind of.
Is that the actual right genre for that book? Oh my god!
It was like monogamy horror. Yeah, it was like a weird fucking. It was cool though. Like for that part of it, I liked it. Like
I like to view that book. I like to view that book as if you felt weird or personally attacked, it was probably on purpose, or it was like a self. If you feel like it was like self call out, that was more like of an inner self reflection moment, and it's because you're right. It was like a very weird book. But it made you feel very weird things. And it's sometimes kind of like, damn, was I that shitty too? Am I a piece of shit too? You have to ask yourself. That book made you ask like that sometimes. It's like, oh, fuck.
That's it really did. But shit like that is cool because, like, I don't think necessarily, I'm not subscribed to the idea that, like, you have to like everything you intake. Like, like, I think there's value in, like, intaking shit that you don't like because... like it just shows you what else is going on, and it shows you can't know what you like if you don't know what you don't like.
True.
That's
and maybe that's like an overly critical. Maybe that's like an overly critical way to approach art, but that's how I've always, because I'm not postmodern enough. So I still like. But Zach Thompson is another one. Yeah, I did. Lonely Receiver was interesting, and that's another thing. You don't have to like them if they're interesting. Like, I don't know if that makes sense. Like. It can be interesting, but you don't like it.
Yeah, especially because if it's uncomfortable, because Lonely Receiver is very, like you said, uncomfortable. And I feel like there are moments that you're definitely like, is this me? Am I addicted to my technology? Is this a literal relationship I have with my technology?
Am I married to my device?
Yep. So I did love Lonely Receiver, though. I thought that it was a beautiful story, and issue number 4, where it's just an orgy from beginning to end, is kind of, I do want to give it is like a chef's kiss, but it's also like horrifying as well. So, there you go. Mars, what is your next pick?
So I've been sitting here trying to decide which book I want to talk about next, because there's just so many. And I'm torn. Do I want to talk about a book that's going to make me cry? Or do I want to talk about a book that might make me rage, but in a good way?
Rage.
Are they so
I was
far?
gonna say both. Just do both.
Are they so
Just do
far?
both? Should we just do both? Should we make it a double whammy, double feature?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, let's rage first, so then I can cry and I can get over my feelings while Jose talks about a million books.
I was gonna
All
say,
right.
I have a feeling I know which one that made you. I feel like I know which
You
one
know.
made you cry.
You know.
Is it?
You know. Anyway, so we're gonna talk about a rage book. So this is Insects. Everybody loves Aftershock right now. Hear me out. Y'all love Aftershock with your We Lives and your nuclear family and your shadow doctors and your lonely receivers.
Phantom on the Scan.
But Phantom of the Scans. But hear me out. Your girl's been riding with Aftershock since the OG days, okay? With a little book called Insects, which is a lesbian revenge love story. So it is literally it's a beautiful horror Victorian Gothic monstrous story about these two lesbian lovers. And one of them is a bug monster lady and kind of very hot. And I love when she gets revenge on her shitty husband, and then they have a baby, and then they raise the baby, and then they protect the baby, and it's just great. Like, listen, you want yourself a good Victorian Gothic grand old time, pick up Insects from Marguerite Bennett, because it is revenge, it is love, it is lesbians. It gets very spicy in some areas. It's just a great book, and nobody talks about this book. Nobody talks about the OGs of Aftershock, and I just listen. Not to be the comic book hipster here, but I love OG Aftershock, okay? Please bring back OG Aftershock.
I think that Chaos is here with you. Mentioned
Animosity, yes.
Dark Arc, yeah.
100%. Okay, tears equals ratings, rage equals ratings. Lovely. Okay, all right, so let's do it, y'all. Y'all know. We can't talk about queer comics without.
I knew it.
Of course you know it. Okay, all right, hold on.
We only talk every week.
We only talk every week about comics and about stuff. All right. So when I think about queer media, whether it's comics, whether it's movies, TV shows, music, games, you name it, nothing has hit me like a pound of bricks, pun intended, the way that Barbarian and the Red Planet has. Barbarian and the Red Planet is a spin-off title from the Black Hammer universe. However, that being said, friends, please do not let that intimidate you, because Barbarian and the Red Planet is something that you can read entirely on its own. And if you are consuming queer content, if you enjoy consuming queer content, if you just want to educate yourself, this is the way that you do it, because, again, most of these books that we're talking about, aside from maybe some of the memoirs, everything is very happy and it's queerness, and people are not happy being queer, but it's love. And this is definitely a book about love and acceptance, but it's also a book about reminding where we came from and what it took to get to where we are today. And it's just, we see the riots, we see the walks, we see the love and the loss that really is the reason why we're here and why we're able to sit here and talk about this. And I'm thankful for this book every day. I really am, because it made me grateful, for where we are now. And that's all I'm going to say. It's just read Barbarian and the Red Planet. Have some tissues next to you. Because this is probably one of the most important comics you will ever read, ever. Sorry to say it. This is going to win all the Eisners and is the book of the year. I'm calling it now. Goodbye, friends.
Yeah,
cool.
So that is so much more than just a Barbarian issue. That's just like
it's so much more than a spinoff. It really is.
Yeah, excellent.
And like you said, I think that you can get intimidated by 13 trades in the Black Hammer universe, which I love the Black Hammer universe. I would highly recommend it. But you could, I would say, maybe read the first Black Hammer trade, and then you could read Barbarian. Honestly, you could just read Barbarian on its own.
100%. 100%.
Cool. I love going after Mars because you give me like the perfect transitions. Though the first one I was gonna do a shout out. I guess I'll be the villain of the group, and I'll shout out a big two. But it's also because this was gonna be a shout out at first, but then Mars just added so much more to it. This is transitioning from my image section to some Marvel talk, and that's Angela.
Yes.
written by Margaret Bennett.
Margaret Bennett.
Oh.
And yeah, wives. So Angela's just awesome. Just something that Marvel actually did right. But I mean, like, I guess if Image wasn't going to use her, Marvel has actually been making her just be super kick-ass. And I just love Angela. So the way she's just been running like some of the realms, it's just so dope.
She literally goes to hell to rescue her wife.
Yep.
Who does that? Who does that?
Angela
does.
Fucking Mystique is about to do some shit like that.
Mystique is about to do some shit.
Wait, what book was that?
Oh, I was talking about Angela, Queen of Hell. I think it was like her book after Secret Wars.
It was
right before Secret Wars.
Yeah.
But the book actually didn't want to talk about. Oh yeah, go for it.
How she ended up at Marvel's crazy in itself. That whole story.
There wasn't like a huge story. There wasn't like Marvel buys a property from Image. It really just she just came into Marvel out of nowhere.
Well, no.
Was there?
Neil Gaiman sold it to Marvel.
Oh no shit! Cool.
Him and Todd McFarlane had been in litigation for like 20 years over it.
Nice.
Because Todd McFarlane supposedly didn't pay a bunch of people when they did these guest spots. Like Dave Sim did a guest spot. Neil Gaiman did a guest spot. He had a bunch of people do guest spots, and apparently he didn't pay everybody correctly. So him and Neil Gaiman were in this litigation, and Neil Gaiman ended up winning. Huh. So he won the rights, and he sold them with, I think, Miracle Man. I think when he sold Miracle Man.
Oh, okay.
When you get sold the rights to that too, or something. I can't remember. It was one other of Neil Gaiman's properties.
That's crazy. It actually finally answers that question for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now Angela, then they wrote her into the Marvel universe. She was just like a side character in a Spawn issue. Like
Spawn number 7, 8, or 9. I always get it mixed up.
Yeah, one of those in the first 10. Yeah, because he had all those guest issues came after the first like trades worth of stuff. Like another book that was like you read it over later and you're like, I thought this was cool. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Interesting.
But it looked tight. You know, like I don't know, it looked fucking tight. It was chains and shit. Like Donnie Cates said. Kids love chains. I think I'm probably this. I feel like he must be around my age or something. Like he and I are probably like in our late 30s. Is he in his late 30s? Is he late 30s?
I think he's like right there in between us. He kind of sounds like says some young stuff too. Where I think he's like grew up like in this age too.
Yeah, so like, cause I'm in my late 30s, and I feel like must be around then, cause like we were coming
about
of
to be
age
30, and yeah, he says some very similar stuff, or just like the whole Venom 200, where like just what Dylan said about like and all the comics I grew up with like Shane's, but for my actual Marvel pick, it's gonna have to be an X-Men pick, and that is Astonishing X-Men Northstar, Marvel's actual first gay wedding. I mean. When you read it, and sure, it happens a little too fast at the end, especially how Northstar just like, "Hey, marry me," but then and Kyle's like, "Bitch, do it fucking right," and then because of hilarity ensues, and then there's like a flash forward, but we still get the wedding regardless, and Marvel did it and was able to do this, and now they're fucking running. Yes, I'm saying Kyle's also running the X Factor team and Little Island because, damn, Jean Paul is just such a babe. He's just incredible.
Melcher.
Yeah, that was a big. Okay.
Sorry, I would say Melcher and I did an entire like show on queer X-Men, and I feel like that was like, I mean, obviously there was queer X-Men before that, but it's really cool to see that was like one of the like newer defining moments.
Oh, for sure. Melcher's turn.
Melcher, what you got?
What you got?
Oh shit. So I heard I hadn't thought about it until Mars said the word, and I was like, oh, Monstress.
Yes, got it up there. So big hardcover.
Yeah.
Oh, here I'm gonna. Let me do this solo.
Yeah, Monstress. And Sana Takeda's art and Marjorie Luth's writing just independently of each other are just so fucking strong.
Hell yes.
Like. And so them as a duo is intense, and I like somebody mentioned earlier, like how the queerness was like normalized. I think you said Inisola, Mars. I think Mars mentioned Inisola, like it's like normalized queerness. It's not.
They're just
really
queer. You're queer for the sake of being queer. you know.
And that it's similarly in Monstress, like they just are, people just are, and they don't really like, it's not really brought attention to in that same way, which is cool to see characters just written as people without having to focus on, not having to focus on the like
on sexualities and on titles and roles, yeah,
or the state, and it's not that it's bad to make a statement, but sometimes when you're able to like weave it into the narrative organically, it just helps, because like not only do we need overt statements, we also need like nuanced and like covert ways of like just getting it normalized. Like
that sounds like the gay agenda.
Those things combine.
It is the gay agenda.
What? That's the gay agenda in itself. Yeah, agenda. That is hands down the gay agenda.
Ask me about my gay agenda.
I studied that in all through high school. I studied the gay agenda handbook. It was with the anarchist cookbook. And a book by Camus, and we just read all those three over and over.
Oh, Albert Camus. The Stranger fucked me up too. Holy shit.
All this shit fucks me up.
The Stranger was like when I embraced, I was a nihilist. I was like, oh my god. I lose scared. That day I was scared shitless. I didn't know what to think of myself. It was like, god damn it, Albert.
Like, wow, the universe is cold and devoid of meaning. What do I do in the face of it?
Yep.
And look, here we are, still looking for that same like fix 20 years later.
Yeah.
Actually, yes.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. I've never moved past that moment. When I realized I was Sisyphus pushing the rock, that was it. I was like, oh, okay, fuck.
I love the show.
Fuck. Yeah, but Monstress has nothing to do with that. It's about it's a fantasy world where they're at war for some shit, magic shit. No, but I do like it because of the normalization of the queerness. And I actually need to check out Isola, because that one kind of flew under my radar. I didn't really even really hear much about it, and then I would see it coming out and never thought to get it, but now I think I should.
I fucking love Monstress. I call it like the rejected manga, and then we're the better for it because we have it in our medium.
Yes, it's so good. Like, it's just one of those expansive worlds too. Like, I love shit with like huge world building, Sandman, Fables, fucking like shit with just huge worlds that go and expand. And I think Monstress does a really good job of kind of like taking that, traditional war situation, but making it like a fantasy epic that's really cool and wide spanning. And the characters are fucking cool. Like, they curse, and the fucking cats. What? Like, you tell there's necromancer cats, and they're also poet philosophers. Like, excuse me. Like, I'm all of those things except a necromancer. Yeah. And then I have
the poets. We're fucked.
Yeah, and I have that.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
So cool.
And then this one says it will end in tears, which is also true.
So, is this the part where Mars confesses?
Don't you do it. Don't you do it. Don't.
No.
Is this the part where Mars confesses?
Sure. Rock our fucking worlds, Mars.
I have attempted to read Monstress. I have attempted to read Monstress several times. And while I love the idea of Monstress, I really do, and I love the art, and it's like those first couple pages I really, really love. I have never been able to finish the first volume, and I've read it multiple times. And it's not because I don't like it. I don't know if it's because I get stuck in something else. I don't know if it's because it feels like it takes forever for me, and not to say that that's a bad thing, but I've never been able to finish Monstress. But I refuse to let it leave my collection, because I will love it one day. It will happen.
The first issue was mad thick. And I loved that too. And it's a very dense. One thing I will say, it probably might take some people some reads because it is very dense. It's much more like literary in scope, and so in dialogue as well. So it can be kind of dense.
Or you probably need to also get like go forward to understand maybe some callbacks of where you're trying to, or where you're trying to get lost.
Yes. Or like Chaos said, maybe reading too. I don't know if anybody, experiences that. Sometimes I'm reading a comic too fast, and I realize like, oh shit, this is one that I have to slow down or like reread a couple times. And Monstress is super dense, especially for dialogue. Yeah. There's hella dialogue in Monstress.
You know, I'll be honest, Mars. I thought you kind of broke my heart because I thought what you were going to say is that you've never read Monstress. Okay. And then you like literally broke it, stepped on it, spit on it when you said, I've read it and I just can't get into it. And like my heart broke even more.
It's not that I can't get into, like I said, I do love Monstress and I love the idea of Monstress and like those first couple pages, even though I've read them like 4 times because that's how many times I've read Monstress, but haven't been able to finish it. I don't know. There's something.
Yeah.
It'll happen one day.
I guess it's probably my turn.
I thought Mars was gonna say she hated Monstress.
I don't.
I thought you were gonna be like, I didn't like it, and I was gonna.
I could never hate a book in my entire life. I have never read a comic that I have ever hated ever.
What? Okay, you promised me Darkness, Cult of Dracula, Eighth Immortal.
Okay. You forgot a very important one.
I actually like one thing I really like watching YouTube do is talk about books you don't like.
Yes.
And I truly think
should we just do a whole episode one day of books that we can't stand?
Gonna say, I've been trying to like get a group of people to do a whole sit down talk about strictly only books we don't like. And like why.
Guess what? Guess what, friends?
Get real into why though. You know what I mean? Like like each person bring like 4 books and get real into why you don't like these 4 books. Like,
guess what, friends? There's not a single good Frank Miller book out there. I hate to break it to you. Goodbye.
Wow.
I actually like I would be interested to have the Frank Miller talk because I'm not a very big Frank Miller fan at all. And I get a lot of flack for that amongst my comic book friends.
It's not everything.
I'm not a big Mark Millar fan. I'm not a big Frank Miller fan.
Yeah. Mars, what did you say about Mark Millar? How did you describe Mark Millar?
Mark Millar may or may not smell his own farts.
He likes the smell of his own farts. He likes the smell of his own, according to Mars.
It's been my favorite tagline of the show recently.
He's a fart smeller?
Yeah.
He is.
I mean, honestly, like you get books like MPH, and it's like, okay, I've seen and read and heard this one before, Mark.
Or like any of his shit, and I read a bunch of it, like just trying to give him a bunch of chances, and I was just like, yeah, it's not clicking. And like similar, there's a few people who I dislike. Like I get shit in my local shop because I do not like Neil Adams' art, and people fucking hate me for it. They hate me for this shit. Like, because my shop is like 35 years old, and a lot of the people who go there are older dudes. Like older than 50, 60-year-old dudes. Like
Melcher just mentioned Neil Adams, and I have some very strong feelings and comments that if you look at Neil Adams' table at a convention from above, it looks like a Nazi symbol.
Holy shit. That was not what I was expecting at all.
Does that explain his fucking jaw lines? Does that explain the way he fucking draws jaw lines?
I'm just saying.
Like a goddamn Ubermensch?
Have you ever? Hear me out. Have you ever volunteered or worked at a convention and looked up from above and looked down at his massive table that for some reason is 5 tables long? It makes a Nazi symbol. Sorry.
Whew. Holy
I wouldn't
shit.
be surprised.
What a bomb.
Yeah, and so like I get a lot of shit from the older dudes, but they're all like, if I were to talk to them about queer comics, they would be so off-put. Like they were pissed when there was a lady Thor. They were like, "Why's it gotta be a lady Thor?"
It's just Thor. I have to say it every time.
Like that. And I was like, "It's just Thor.
Dr.
It's
Thor.
actually just Thor." And they're like, "They turned Thor into a woman," and I'm like, "Well, that's not exactly what happened." But like,
it's the hammer to choose, and I figured you would know that, you old head comic dude.
Yeah, and it's like the old Thor is still there. Like they didn't turn that character into a woman. Like that's not what happened. Like that's how they're seeing it though. But anyway, I don't know where we were at. Sorry.
Queer comics.
We're at Queer Comics.
I'm loopy.
Oh. I have to shout this out really quick. Comic Toby, you've got 2 short boxes and one is half full. I'm gonna say stop now while you still can because it's addicting. I thought that I had a lot in my tiny like 400 square foot apartment, but Melcher, like you 1,000% have me beat, man.
I think I have about 10,000 books.
That sounds like
so
an
Comic
understatement.
So Comic Toby, I have a bunch of 90s era Image comics that you can fucking have. You want some Gen 13? You want some Wildcats? You want some Rob Liefeld's Troll? You want a fucking copy of Spawn 1, which I have like a billion of for whatever reason?
I actually have 3.
I had no joke. Like 7 or 8 years ago, I went through my shit and I was like, dude, I have 14 issues of Spawn #1. Oh, it was when I went to the first Image Expo because I was going to have Todd McFarlane sign it, which I did. And I was like, I have 12 of these? Like, why do I have 12? I just gave them, since a lot of my friends were just getting into comics in like 2011, 2012, when it was kind of, when Image was kind of picking back up.
Oh, hell yeah.
I gave them to a bunch of my friends. I was like, here's the first issue of Spawn. Here's the first issue of Spawn. It's fucking, I was making it rain Spawn #1.
It's awesome.
But anyways.
I feel like I don't know how to go off after Monstress.
You got plenty of it.
I do.
I see.
I
see Tilly Walden.
Yeah. So I've got On a Sunbeam here. There was another book that I just got by Tilly Walden, but I haven't read yet. But this one's kind of a thick book. This one,
my battery.
I feel like is a beautiful story about like finding yourself, maybe, and finding others and who you are. It's beautiful. It's very genderqueer, very gender diverse.
Nice.
Yeah. But it's thick. It's a lot. This isn't like a beach read. Like, unless you're gonna like be at the beach for hours and hours and hours. I go to the beach for 10 minutes and then I'm like, fuck this, I'm done. But yeah. What else? Man, I'm trying to figure out what else I got by Tilly Walden recently. That wasn't this one, but yeah. Beautiful. What are your thoughts on, since you called it out, what are your thoughts on Tilly Walden? Have you read On a Sunbeam?
Yes, it's just so, I don't know, like life affirming. I don't know. Mm-hmm. It just makes me feel good. Like they make me feel, Tilly Walden stuff makes me feel good at the end of it.
It reminds me of the book that you sent me, Out of Nothing. I mean, obviously, it's much smaller, but the artwork style is pretty similar. So yeah, it's beautiful. Look at it. Mars, what do you have?
I have lots of books. I have a million books. Anyway,
we're only halfway done for mine.
double feature, triple feature, double.
Yeah.
Okay, double feature, because. And I say this in the most lovingly way possible because they're basically the same book. But both books make me very happy. So the first one is Bloom from First Second Publishing. And the other one is Heartstopper from Scholastic Publishing. I definitely prefer Heartstopper. I love Bloom, and I think you should definitely read Bloom. Because it is they're both gay romantic tales in boys' formative years, but without feeling like that weird, manga pining that we tend to be used to when we see gay romances in literature and in media. Heartstopper in particular, this is another book that you can read entirely for free because it was originally a webcomic, so you literally have no excuse. But Heartstopper, it's exactly what I said. It's a tale of two boys one of them is finding their sexuality, the two of them defining their relationship and falling in love, and it reminds me of what I wish my high school years had been like, where it's all pure romantic bliss. But at the same time, it doesn't feel faked. The conversations in Heartstopper feel extremely real between Nick and Charlie, and of course, all of their friends. Nick also discovers that he is bisexual. So, of course, any book that has bisexual representation gets an A++ in my book, because it's something that I feel like we don't talk openly enough about in media. And it's either you're, 1 foot in or 1 foot out. But I really love Heartstopper. I love how simple and just homely it makes me feel. This is a book that makes me cry, but it's happy tears. Like, it's not weird. It's kind of like how you felt with Sunstone, where it's like,
oh God,
you feel so good and you feel so wholesome and you feel so loved that you just can't help but want to cry because it is so perfect. And I just love Heartstopper. And volume 3 just came out last month. Volume 4 is on the way. I believe that comes out in October. But I really love these, not necessarily juvenile, because they really do feel all ages, but they're definitely aimed at a more young adult audience and a more high school aged audience. But I absolutely love these wholesome feeling books. And I love the idea that, they are accessible books for kids right now, because we are growing up in a very queer society, and I very much love that.
Nice.
Josue, what you got?
I'm going to double feature it too, just so I can get out of my lameness with the big two. And I mentioned Kieran Gillen earlier with Jamie McKelvey, so I had to talk about another Kieran Gillen, Jamie McKelvey Marvel book. That is super awesome. Young Avengers book that they did.
I knew it.
This book was so awesome, so queer. The whole team is so queer.
It's queer. The whole team is queer. How many books from a big two comic alone can you get that are queer?
Yeah, right, exactly.
All the way through.
Even still, like with Prodigy kind of coming out in this book, being like, no, I'm actually by Kate Bishop. I love the finale of it. Kate Bishop being like realizing, like, wait, you're all pretty much gay? And then America Chavez just answering the call, like, honey, I've seen the way you look at me. You're not that straight. It's like, yes, please. This book just deserves another one. Like, at least like this team deserves another go. Give me more Young Avengers like this.
100%.
This omnibus, if you're on a lookout for it, or if you just like look out for it online, there's like a great playlist. These are all the songs to read for the book.
Here, I'm gonna full screen that. I don't know why, because I can still barely see, but
oh shit, is it this one? Yeah. It's just so much. I'll send you a picture of it so you can probably post it better, but it's a great playlist.
Somebody's made the playlist on
I've tried to make it once. And it's like I couldn't find like a few of the songs, but it was just long as hell. I'll try to make it again because it was from a different profile. But this book nonetheless is just so much fun and just deserves so much more credit. And I hope this is where the MCU takes the Young Avengers in. I'll go for it.
He did a story. I haven't read it yet, but that Pride issue that just came out, Kieran Gillen did a story revisiting the characters from the.
Mm-hmm.
They did their vows, and honestly, like this, I literally have it right here. The Marvel Pride issue was actually not bad. It had a lot of great moments. But the other serious book for my double feature, talking about To Leave the Big Two, is a very underrated character over on the DC side, and that is motherfucking Panic.
Yes!
This one should have been in the DC Pride. Like, she's such an underrated character. Actually does good for Gotham. And I don't know why she's not utilized more. She's like the opposite of Batman, just wearing all white and kicking ass, using her name to better the city. Super bisexual. Such a great fucking series.
Love it.
I don't know why DC doesn't do more with her. Yeah. It's like there's like the Bat family, it's like the grand Bat family, but it's like Mother Panic is there too, guys. Like, use her, utilize her. She's super dope.
Yep, 100%. it's funny that you say that she's underutilized, and I forgot about Mother Panic. Like that's how, like I loved reading that when it was coming out, but surprised I haven't revisited it since then.
It's definitely worth the reread.
Sharing that one. Yeah.
Now, Melchor.
Oh, okay. So the next one is this really brilliant artist, and it's all like they do line drawings and they do paintings and stuff, and so it's like it's a bit of both, but it's Tommy Parish.
Oh, here, let me.
Tommy Parish, The Lie and How We Told It.
Mm-hmm.
It's on Fantagraphics. It's a Fantagraphics book.
Oh.
And,
what is it? One more time. The Lie and.
The Lie and How We Told It.
Ooh.
And Tommy Parish like interested me from the first time I saw their work, and so then I was following, and when this book came out, I just loved the title so much too. I was like, I will buy a fucking book just based on a good title, and even if I wasn't familiar with Tommy Parish, I would have bought it. But it's kind of like it's like a navigating of queer identity kind of thing after like a friend. There's a moment in a friendship that makes things awkward, and then there's a falling out kind of, and then it goes into like kind of themes of like identity, finding your identity through your life's experiences and circumstances, and how those all play into each other. And it's just a pretty like, and it's actually like the art might not get a lot of people, I don't know, but I really enjoy the stylization of it. Like, so it's very like cartooning and painting kind of combined. And let me see if there's a brighter page somewhere. But there's also some of this stuff too, which is really cool. It's just like line drawings and text.
Oh, similar to
So
like
it's an interesting.
was recently.
What was it?
So similar to how the way Monsters was recently, like that kind of self-line work instead of just super production style. Yeah.
And I love that too, because it kind of breaks, you can be pulled out of like a visual narrative by something like that, and it really accentuates whatever's happening there in that moment when you just see a single picture with a block of text. And I've always loved when comics can kind of incorporate that, and it doesn't feel forced or doesn't feel like inorganic or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But Tommy Parish is somebody who navigates that like with a kind of a dry, cynical humor to it too, which I can always relate to. Tommy Parish, The Lie and How We Told It.
I'm gonna have to see if Books with Pictures has that one the next time that I'm there, because that sounds really, really interesting.
The cover is also just very cool. I don't know, like it's populated with all these various characters, and the way Tommy Parish illustrates is kind of different and weird, but in a good way.
Yeah, it looks busy, but I feel like you could get lost in it.
Yeah. And it's just a brilliant fucking title. I mean, when people have good like I love titles.
Ooh.
A catchy title, yeah.
Yeah.
Good titles are just something else. And when they can like express their own thing apart from the story itself, like when the title can be, once you read the story and then you see the title again, you're like, oh, it tells you this whole other thing. It's like when a song is just named the fucking first thing that the song says. Like it doesn't give you anything extra. It's good when a title gives you something extra. When you get something extra from the title.
That's and Tony Parish. Tony Parish. I'm gonna have to take a look at that.
Yeah.
Tommy Parish. Yeah, it's TOMMIPARRISH.
Beautiful. All right, so I think that I don't know how many that you all have left. I think that I want to go ahead and I'm gonna make this one my last one.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I'm gonna go ahead and do Lumberjanes. I know I picked a lot of like younger books, but I just think this one is so wholesome. Once again, group of lady types just finding themselves and growing up. It's done by Noelle Stevenson and oh my goodness, I can't even think. But the wife partner of Molly Knox Ostertag. So anyways, Lumberjanes is just really beautiful. I would say it's for kids as well as adults alike. If you want a book like that maybe you could read to a kid or give to a kid, this one's definitely it. Mars, what do you have?
I'm gonna do one last pick as well, just because we're hitting that 2-hour mark.
We are.
We are indeed. So my last pick is going to be, I think, what is a very important book, and that is The Prince and the Dressmaker, published by First Second Comics and Jen Wang. I just want to go out on a limb and just say First Second Comics might be the queerest publisher I have ever seen in my life. And that even includes Volt Comics existing. Every single book, aside from maybe one or two books from First Second, is queer. We have On a Sunbeam. We have Bloom. We have Prince and the Dressmaker. Laura Dean is breaking up with me. There are so many queer titles that you should be reading. But I love Prince and the Dressmaker because it doesn't focus necessarily on queer sexuality, but instead focuses on queer identity and gender fluidity. So it tells a story of Prince Sebastian and his, I don't want to say servant or maid, but dressmaker, if you will. And I can't think of her name. And Prince Sebastian likes to moonlight at night, basically as a, for lack of a better word, drag queen. And his friend realizes what he's doing and encourages him to kind of pursue this passion and pursue this dream and this secret double life, if you will. And it's just friendly and wholesome. And again, I feel like these books like that focus on gender fluidity aren't ones that we see nearly enough. And again, the fact that this is one of those all ages books that other younger readers can get their hands on, and kind of, because I feel like that's one of the things I love about queer media is you can read or watch a piece of queer media and kind of come to terms with your own self and realize, okay, that's exactly how I feel, but I've never been able to put a term or a meaning to it. So the fact that we have books like Prince and the Dressmaker really make me happy, and it's just so wonderful. Please read it.
Oh. And it's so funny. You kind of said that that one bit like a call out, like unlike not like Vol Comics, but it's more like of a compliment. At least like this day and age, we're talking about like we have like so many outlets for so many queer books now, and that's just like so freaking cool.
It is
like my next one.
That your next one.
Like that isn't either of those, but it's one that just again just captured my heart by just how charming it was. And we're talking about how like we're normalizing a bunch of like queer comics now of like for a bunch of different people, but also for kids. And this book is just so fucking good. Oh. Wind is just, again, like, it's so charming. Like the way just Wind is, like, if it's from the first issue, when he uses his breaks to go spy on his little crush, and he just gets that little blush. The whole thing is just, it's just really delightful. And I'm glad that this didn't stop at a one volume thing, and it's almost like ongoing. Because I just love how this one's just being told, and how Jen says, like with Lumberjanes, you can practically just give it to like a kid. It's like if you know the kid and feel like they would understand what they're reading, you can just totally just like hand them something, like this.
Yeah. And I feel like it's one of those palate cleansers too, even thinking about James Tynan, whatever. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that.
Tynan.
Tynan. So thinking about all of the other books that he's doing right now. Last House on the Lake.
Nice House on the Lake.
Nice House on the Lake. Sorry, thank you. And thinking about Batman, and thinking about Department of Truth.
Department of Truth. Something is killing children, and then the palate cleanser.
I could literally read all of those books, and they feel like different books. And Wind is just, it's delightful, and I love it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I've been needing to read Wind. Actually, I've been wanting to.
Super good.
It's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Another like all ages one too that I. Oh, wait. Who's it?
Oh no, I was gonna say after you. I have one more bit, but it's your turn. Go for it.
Go ahead. No. You.
Oh, it's just like my closing. It was like because I had like one more bit. 'Cause I know we're kind of wrapping up.
What's your closing book?
Well, it's books. I don't have the time, but it's the books. I had a whole vault section of queer books that I have read so far. I have many other ones that I'm pretty sure are also just as queer, but these for sure are some to look out for.
Here, I'm gonna full screen,
and particularly Heathen is just one that just made me bawl. The last issue just made me bawl like a baby, just because like the whole last line and what the story is all about, and it just. Oh, she's still around, right? I'm like not making it complete sad, but I just made me miss my mom because she's like a couple of states away. But Heathen is just fantastic. Submerge by the fantastic Vita Ayala. So it's Vita Ayala. Is it
Ayala?
Ayala.
Oh,
it's a famous like last name.
I've been pronouncing it wrong my whole life. Oh no!
Oh no, you're good. But that's what you have it right now because like they are like South American. Like I forget where they're actually from, but. Name, but it's also like Mexican. I've had friends with that last name, and it's Ayala, yeah. But other than that, all these books like Test with Jen Hickman, just doing the art. Test is just like amazing with the representation, just being telling that kind of story, and just like again, it's like normalizing that kind of tale, and you have that twisted tale. Holy shit! Vault is just like a company that just completely has my heart. They really just knock it out of the park with just. I just love to say you're gonna find your next favorite book through Vault. It's just so random.
And I have to say really quick, Vault did a really cool promotion, or Books with Pictures did a really cool promotion.
Yes.
And I think it was like if you had a Vault comic on your pull list or something, you got entered to win. And so you won that big stack of books from Books with Pictures. I'm actually really jealous.
It was like, well, these were part of it. It was like 17, 18 books in total. And it was like pretty much like a raffle for each book that was out. So I'm like, oh, you guys are doing Money Shot. It was like Black Stars Above. And there was like Finger Guns. And it's like, you know what? And put me down for like the other one just like to better my odds. And it's like, I was so happy like winning this because it's such a treat.
Yeah. So
that's cool. Exciting.
Okay. What you got, Melchor?
I don't know, because now I'm just thinking about all those cool ass Vault comics. There have been so many cool ones. I guess to close off, let me see. There's a couple that just got like side mentions. Like Nomen Omen has some cool queer characters in it, and that was an okay book. That's like it's not super great, but it's all right. I mean, Saga, of course.
Yes.
And All Ages. An All Ages one that I really liked was Jonesy. That one was pretty cute. I think that was a Boom. A Boom title. Bingo Love was a good one. That's a quick read if anybody wants like a quick little tear jerker. And the writer of Bingo Love is going to be writing the fucking Harley Quinn cartoon spin-off.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. So I'm excited for that. But my main last one is it was super adorable, and some of the characters I just fell in love with is Moonstruck.
Oh, yep. Ooh. I'm so glad you brought that one up.
Yeah, and it's an Image book, and I think the second and third volumes only came out in trade. I think they went up to issue like 7, but then they ended up doing like 7 through 12 as a trade, and then what would be, the end of the series. But there's just some really cute fucking characters in here, and there's vampires and fairies and centaurs and a Medusa-headed person, and they're kind of just living amongst humans as well. And the main character, one of the storylines involves the main character who is a centaur losing their back half, like they lose their centaur part. Yeah. So it's like a mystery of them trying to figure out where it went and how, and they kind of lose their identity. Like they're kind of like struggling with their own identity when they don't have their centaur part. So it was a pretty cute book, and like all in all, more just like heartwarming queerness, like it's more just like a heartwarming and funny. It's also very funny. And I think it shares some writers with Lumberjanes, like Grace Ellis.
Yep,
Grace Ellis work on Lumberjanes. Yeah, so Grace Ellis writes Moonstruck, and it's just really fun. It's hella funny, and it made me like laugh out loud, chuckle a bunch of times.
Nice,
which I find to be a great like that's like great gauge for a comic book, like when you can chuckle, like when it makes you chuckle out loud.
A good laugh instead of being like, oh, that was a joke.
Yeah.
That was good, but whatever. But actually,
Yeah.
fuck yeah.
So that's one I really like, and I'm fucking blanking on the centaur's name. Is their name Chip?
It's been a minute since I've read that one.
I know they get obsessed with a game that's like Animal Crossing, which is hilarious, and like it's just all a bunch of lovable characters, really. So yeah, Moonstruck.
Beautiful. I think we literally just hit the 2-hour mark. So I feel like this is a pretty good time to wrap it up. So thank you everyone for being here. I do just want to go ahead and once again, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for bringing your favorite books.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. I do want to also go ahead and mention once again that in the description below, there is a link to the bookshop.org list of some of the books. Not all of them were available on there, but some of the books I tried to add as we went along, and I'll try to add more after this. So if you're watching on the replay, go and check it out. And then also there are links to the Marsha P. Johnson Institute as well as the Trevor Project. If we maybe want to go around and just say where people can find you. Mars, if you want to go first.
I am everywhere as That Comic Girl, at That Comic Girl on Instagram with 3 L's because somebody is still stealing my username, but that's okay.
Oh.
That's fine. That's fine. It's cool. I'm just going to keep complaining until I get it. You can also find me on YouTube at That Comic Girl, where I occasionally do really cool recommendation lists, really cool in-depth lists about the Suicide Squad and other fun things, and just every Sunday here with Jen, where I am very strongly opinionated.
Very strongly opinionated, and I love it. Even when our opinions are like so drastically different, I love it so much, and we're just very honest about the books that we love and the books that we hate, especially.
I love it when I guess it wrong. When it's like, oh, Jen's gonna like this one, and Mars is gonna hate this one, and you're just like,
is it like a game every Sunday?
It is,
because
then I really want to know why, and it's like, oh, damn, that's really cool.
I know you mentioned it earlier, but Josue, where can everyone find you?
Yes, mostly active on Twitter at Josue Reads Josue. I host a music podcast at Jukebox Vertigo, where just actually yesterday we recorded the episode where we're discussing bands or artists that begin with the blanks, and decided a bunch of like our own picks from that category. And then I'd also discussed disgusting amount of comics over at We Have Issues. We Have Issues, or WHI Pod is a Twitter handle for that one. But the show is We Have Issues, and Jukebox Vertigo is my other one. And again, thank you guys for having me. This was so much fun being on here again.
Thank you. We were talking about it. Like I miss seeing you at the shop. Like
yeah.
I used to have Wednesdays off work, and I'd get to be there like right when the shop opens, and now I have to go after work. So we kind of miss each other there. But,
yeah.
That's all right.
As of today, I'm actually fully vaccinated, so I'm safe to head out now. Yes.
Yes, that's awesome. That's amazing. Melcher, where can we find you?
Yes, I am on the fucking internet. Like everywhere.
I am on the internet.
Like everywhere. No, on Twitter and Instagram, I'm at Smoker Buddy. And on Facebook, I'm Melchor Sagoon III, if you can figure out how to spell it. It's a very complicated Spanish name. But mostly on Instagram, Twitter, here and there, increasingly more lately. So I'd love for people to find me on there. I just love talking to people. I also have a YouTube channel. I commented in the comments. I do music and shit. I make music, and I write poems and shit, and I do that kind of shit. That kind of nerd shit, like the super emo nerd shit. I write poems, that kind of shit. So I'm all over the internet. I love talking to people, so if anybody wants to chat, I would love chatting. Find me. I love making friends. And thank you for having me. This was fucking so cool. Like I've been dreaming of talking to Mars and Jen and getting to meet Josue. That it's been so cool. Like,
yes, dude.
having
It was
this
a
chat
pleasure.
with everybody. And everybody in the comments, thank you so much. It's really been fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a really fun time. So you can find Mars and I next week. I think we're going to pull double, maybe triple duty, because we'll be talking about 2 weeks of comics next week.
And the Green Arrow special.
Especially, we're probably going to spend a whole hour on the Green Arrow special. We would also be doing like a monthly wrap up. So maybe be prepared for that. We'll see. We may save that. So you can definitely find us here. I am here on Sundays on this channel talking to Mars as usual. I also do a show on Fridays with Comic Talk Live over on Will the Beast Fitness channel with Bearded Comic Bro, Fire Guy Ryan. Sammy's with us sometimes. And then we have some other guests as well from time to time. Tomorrow, I actually got the really cool opportunity to hang out with Bueller, Comics with Bueller. We recorded a show, so that'll be premiering at 5 a.m. Pacific time over on Bueller's channel. So I'm really excited to watch that. So once again, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for being a part of Pride Month. And like I said, if any of these recommendations hit you in the feels, speak to you, whatever, if you maybe just want to, if you feel so inclined, check out the Marsha P. Johnston Institute, as well as the Trevor Project. Links are down below. And it doesn't even have to be donating money. Both of them have lists that you can subscribe to because they do events as well. So once again, thank you everyone for being here, and happy Pride Month. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.